Welcome to Grit and Gravitas with Ann and Annie, bringing you savvy, spirited stories of success. We're excited to deliver 30 minutes of inspiration, impact, and goodness. We'll be bringing you guests and friends from around the country who have very special work and personal journeys. I'm Ann Deeter Gallaher, your co-host with Annie Carnathan, and this is Grit and Gravitas. Let's go! Welcome to Grit and Gravitas podcast. Annie Carnathan, here we are back in the studio again. It's a gorgeous day outside. We have a phenomenal guest, and it's my first time meeting her. I did my research. Kelly Parker, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
And you are VP of Marketing for Fitness Holdings, aka Crunch Fitness. So I think we're going to get a little fitness exercise health vibe. Is that true today?
She markets for 40 Crunch fitness centers.
That's a lot, but I imagine you love doing that.
I do. I love sports. I love fitness in general, so I'm pretty excited about
So this
staying
is
in
fun. It's almost, we're at the end of the month, Women's History Month, so it's kind of fun that we're recording today, and we're going to have a total female vibe going on. We are going to have male guests, and we talked about this a little before we went on air. We just there's so many fascinating, influential, inspirational women. We haven't run out of our list to get to the men, but we do love
barely
men.
scratched the surface.
We do love men, so
Yes.
no slight on the men.
Oh yes, big fans.
Yes.
Yes.
So welcome.
Thank you.
And this is not a little known tidbit, but you are a tennis phenom. So I want to hear, I confessed to Kelly that I'm not going to ask too many tennis questions because I won't sound like I know what I'm talking about. So I will defer to you, Annie, to dig deeper into the tennis backstory and hear some about your competition and some of your just mindset, like what prepares you to compete at the level that you did or even still do.
Yeah. Well, I played tennis all the way. My dad is still a tennis coach to this day, so he was always.
Did you
my
start
coach.
at 8? Did I read?
I did, yeah. And it's shaped a lot about how I think about things and kind of how I approach things. It's an individual sport, so you're out there by yourself,
Right.
and you're kind of learning how to solve your own problems. So I think that really helped, shape how I approached different tests and different situations all the way through. I was actually ranked number 1 in the country in every age division growing
That's
up.
amazing.
And then played on the national team and then went to college, and it got me a full ride to Duke. So
I was just going to say, was that a tennis scholarship then?
yeah,
Wow.
and I was number 1 in the country in college, and
Wow.
then went pro. So it was definitely a big part of my life and how it kind of got.
Did you
the
know
stepping
that when
stones.
you were little? Like, was that a dream of yours?
No, I just really like to win.
Okay, well, that's a business. We're going to start right off with a business vitamin,
Is it
I really like to win. I do too.
is it liking to win or hating to lose?
That's a good question. And I think the answer is I really hate to lose. And you like to win, but you really hate to lose. And it propelled me to practice more. Hey, if I practice more, I win more. And
Lose less.
I lose less. And if I, play these tournaments and do this process and, get more knowledgeable, I win more. I lose less. And, I think that mentality actually has stayed with me a lot for sure.
Well, that probably helped you in business too. In marketing, and I know you do digital media as well, but wanting to stay current, wanting to be the best, pitching yourself to your clients, now in your own leadership role, wanting to lead the best fitness, organization that you can.
Well, we have goals each month, focused on new member units or membership retention and, my bosses are pretty funny because I do not like to lose. I want to hit that number, and I get a little irritated if they,
don't meet the number.
don't meet the number.
quota,
I'm like,
yeah.
come on, guys, this is what we got to do. So it's fun to kind of hit those goals.
So would you say when you looked at what's next after this tremendous commitment to be a world-class
Yeah.
athlete, it's practicing when you don't feel like practicing, it's getting up when you want to sleep.
Wait, do you practice 7 days a week?
No, it was 6 days a week. You get Sunday off.
It's not eating a bag of Doritos when you just would like
Yeah.
to sit there and eat a bag of Doritos.
Yeah.
There's a
think
lot
it
of
was-
discipline in that.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes.
that's really the word that I think pivots into business and having that same mindset. So when you thought of what's next, what did you think about in terms of a career?
I had a really hard setback when I stopped playing tennis. Mentally, emotionally, it was a really difficult time to not be a tennis player. That's how I
You
identified
mean
myself.
personally? Like your own personal, what's my purpose
Well, you're-
now?
Identity?
Yeah, going through an identity crisis.
Yeah.
And, I truly believed that because I went to Duke, I should have this salary and this type
Right,
of job, and I
right.
should be this. And, you get kicked around a little bit because you got to start over. Like, you have to start what you're
So
doing.
we talk a lot about
over.
emotional resilience. That's a lot of, you have to learn to be resilient in those
Yeah,
situations.
and in tennis, that's what you have to be. But,
Right.
I had to learn something new. I had to learn a new skill. So I was actually teaching tennis at the time, and I wanted to start my own class for 8 and under kids because that was something that not everybody was doing, so I could get some new clients. And so I started a blog.
Oh, great.
So I created a blog, created a website for it, and I had done all this research on like, okay, these are the best drills for 5-year-olds. And of course I went out there and they did not work at all. So I just blogged about my experience. Like, Johnny was supposed to toss
So
the
you
ball
just
and catch the
blogged
ball, and
the-
Johnny threw the ball like, Annie's face instead. And,
So you were totally transparent.
so I was just totally
Yeah.
transparent. Like, these are
Not
little
working
kids
out.
are not
It's
doing,
like herding cats.
and
It's like
and my mom told me at one point, she was a teacher, and I said, what is the trick here? You gotta teach me. I'm teachable. You gotta help me out. Like, what is the thing here? And she's like, candy. You have to have candy in your pocket at all times.
It's like training a dog.
Yes,
right.
and I was like, genius.
Eureka.
So I started that blog. I started kind of toying around with social media, and that's how I got into it because
That's awesome.
I got to make mistakes and learn
Your
on my
own
own.
personal
And
experience,
I just
yeah.
learned a ton because I was in control of it and could, do everything. And I got kind of a couple freelance jobs out of that.
Yeah.
And then they were like, do whatever you want to try to get us more. And they got more business. And, it kind of was like your own personal learning platform
Right.
of,
You're experimenting
I
and then
think
applying it.
webinars will work for you. Let's
Yeah.
try it out. I've never done one. So, funny story. One time we were doing a webinar. I'd never done one before. And I'm, have this person on this camera, and we had this great idea to put the logo in the back, but the logo's backwards. And
Yes,
you don't
yes.
think about it
Right.
until you see it, and then you learn, okay,
Yeah.
well, we can't put a backwards logo on the wall because this is a business. So, it's just, there was a lot of learning experiences, and that's how I kind of ended up with Crunch. I had a friend who connected me, and I had never run ads before, and I said, I think this will really help you. Facebook ads were, big,
Yeah.
really coming into fruition, and I took an online course. I learned absolutely as much as I could for about a month, and then I pitched them, and I said, you should do Facebook ads, and I'll do them for you.
Wow.
Give me a free month. Give me a month where I just do them for you, and I won't charge you. And then they hired me. So,
That's awesome.
you kind of have your own learning platform.
They test drove Kelly.
Yeah. Yeah.
In her services.
Yeah.
And I think what I hear in that, and Anna and I talk a lot about that in terms of social media, is your authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the scenarios you're seeing on social media are
Not authentic.
not authentic.
Yeah.
And life is messy.
Yeah.
Life is 100%. And you had a major setback, right? So you ladder up. You're one of the best tennis players in the world. That's
Yeah.
a world-class athlete. Because if anybody ever doesn't think that, do that, try to swim up and back a lap, in a pool. Like, people have no idea what that requires. Not just to get to a certain point, but to maintain it.
Yeah.
And so when I look out and you're doing that discipline and you ladder up and then all of a sudden you're not kicked down a couple rungs, you're off the ladder.
Yeah.
And you're looking up flat on your back going, what just happened?
Yeah.
And
Right.
talk about a pivot. And I don't care if it's a career, if it's a innovation, if it's an evolution, if it's a new job. That was a huge one.
Yeah. Well, I think there's always maybe opportunities where you don't see them. So keeping an open mind of you can get smacked down and there's maybe an open door down on the floor
Yeah.
that you'll find, or, keep learning and then you'll find an open door, but find something. And
I love that you didn't wait till you had a degree in digital media to start your journey.
Oh, I never got a degree in digital media.
Yeah.
I'm a sociology major.
Well, that might be more important nowadays, just understanding people.
Yeah. Maybe.
But the fact that you did your own research and then went out and pitched yourself, which is what entrepreneurs have to do. Like, if we don't believe in ourselves, no one's going to pay for
Yeah,
our
it does remind
service.
me of your story.
Yeah, it's a similar, but lots of times I have observed this more in women than men. We wait till we know everything about something, a subject or a program or a board we're going to sit on. And then we say, let's do this. Instead of, the rest of the people are 3 matches ahead of us because we're just waiting to be perfect. But I love that, which this is a business item to all the younger ladies listening. Like, do your research and then, start the race. Don't wait until you're 10 years down the road and say, now I've got my master's and I've,
Right, put
have
yourself out
several
there.
certifications. There's no better teacher than learning, as you go. And digital media, that's changing as we're speaking during this podcast. So there's,
Right.
some new TikTok has decided on something else now while we're sitting here. But I love the learn by doing, which is what we've done with Grit Gravitas. We did not take podcasting 101.
We're not broadcasters.
No.
It's just sort of how do we help women, and you can talk about it or you can actually do it.
Yeah.
And so
And it begins
you
with
did it.
healthy curiosity of understanding. So for you, this new world of digital media is changing everything that we're selling. Everything. If you're in business, it affects you. So I love that you just immersed yourself in that, like us with podcasting and our business work too. It's just not being afraid to dive in the deep end. And maybe some of that you learned through your tennis competitions. You said it's an individual sport. Well, somebody of the two of you is losing. So you have to, it's like all my boys were wrestlers and it's almost identical.
It is.
Someone's coming off that mat, when everyone in the gymnasium or on the court is watching 2 people.
Yeah.
And so, it's the lessons you learn there. Did you make a bad takedown? Did you make a bad, serve or whatever, making you stronger and giving you that kind of self-confidence that I'm getting right back up there and doing it again the next day.
Well, I mean, winners get used to winning and losers kind of get used to losing, I think. So you got to have a lot of, you get some wins and then you get
Right.
confidence and you kind of get used to that feeling and you know how far to push yourself and, maybe what's out of your comfort zone and where you can go. And I think that's where the discipline comes in, where you can, anybody can really, if they know their boundaries or know how far they can go,
Right.
you build a lot of confidence in yourself and what you're capable of.
I think that's one of the core aspects of success is discipline. Mm-hmm. And look at whatever it is. Whether it's a work ethic, whether it's a cut corner, whether it's I don't really feel like that today. There's just a relentlessness to people who do not want to lose. And if you're an athlete, and certainly I wasn't a high functioning one, sales, no one will ever tell me wasn't a way to win and lose, especially when that's how you're deriving your income.
Right.
And really successful salespeople, Kelly, fail way, 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 way more than they ever succeed.
Right.
But no one sees that.
Right.
Right. No one sees the relentless failure that absolutely has to be embraced. And if you don't look at it for what I learned out of it, I'm either going to repeat that and then I'm not going to be successful in sales, which is just my career. And so when I look at the discipline of an athlete, we hire so many athletes because guess what? They perform.
Yeah.
They don't really have a lot of excuses. They might not be right. And again, I think the authenticity of you saying, here are some of the mistakes I made. Mm-hmm. Here's what I didn't know, which at that point was everything. you know? And whether it's your mom or whether it's your friend or an advocate, you know, in today's world, like my spouse is as supportive and important to anything I do as anyone, right? And so I think we tend to look out and say, I'm never going to get there. I'm losing too much. And what is the inner fortitude you had, not just to be an athlete, but to pivot and take those essential successful traits into business?
I think at the end of the day, I look at it and have a goal. And the goal doesn't have to be, I'm a very goal-driven person, but the goal doesn't have to be a win or lose goal. It could be, this is the life that I want to live. Mm-hmm. I want to have a family. I want to go to my kids' soccer games. I want to work and have a successful role. But what does that mean to me? And these are my goals. And it kind of adjusts where you put your energy and your time and how you look at your balance and, you know, okay, this is the goal. I want to be able to get my daughter off the bus at 2:30. How do I do that? You know, how do I structure
what kind of a job do I have to have that will allow me to do that?
Right. Maybe you don't need to be a CEO of a company, or maybe that is your goal, but you're going to adjust your life according to that. So I think in anything, having the goal allows you to create a process and the discipline to get there. But you kind of need to know what you want first in my life.
Right. Once
I figured out what I wanted, I let go of the things that were holding me back. You know, when I left college, I only went 2 years and I had the best time. And I had to leave to play pro because that was my time to play.
Right.
And I lost every match I played when I first went out. I didn't actually, but it felt like I lost to every Asian person that played tennis.
Just the quality of person you're playing against.
Yeah, well, yeah, everybody's playing for their life.
Yeah,
you know, they're playing for their livelihood, and I mean, I felt like I lost every single match, and I went back to school for a visit, and it wasn't fun. I didn't have a good time when I went back. And from there, I made the quarters or semifinals of every tournament I played after that.
Oh, wow.
I started winning because I let go of it.
Yeah.
You know, I let go of that life, and I accepted the fact that that wasn't my life anymore and could move on. And I think the same thing happened when I quit tennis. I finally let go of it and focused on my future and my new passion or goals.
So I love that example, and I think that has a business application too. So when you said winners get used to winning and losers get used to losing, what advice would you have for younger people that might be recent college grads or coming out of a technical school or even high school and wanting to start a business? Any advice on the mindset that you're bringing to your workday? Like how does that, because I feel strongly it does affect, our success and even the goals that we're setting.
Yeah, I think knowledge is power in any situation. So go into your work setting trying to get better at what you do and you'll start having wins.
Right.
You know, you'll have wins at your work, at whatever it is. You'll have wins, and progress. And, you know, being open and honest with people is, I think, the biggest win that I take to business is when I have good relationships with people, good things seem to happen.
Right.
You know,
Good,
because
good.
you're open and honest, you're playing the game, not the game, but you're having good relationships with people, and people like people, the interaction, the human engagement, and when they trust you and when you work hard and ethically,
Right.
you know, you can evolve that relationship, and it might be an open door later on in your life.
Yeah. And I think that's contagious. You know, when you can see when you start to increase your wins, and that could be anything. You know, it could be a new client, it could be a new campaign we started, or X amount of likes, you know, on a post that we have. That you start to get re-energized every time those stack up, and you do get used to winning, and you know, see things in a different light. Maybe you make decisions differently, but that's contagious to your team and the people around you, and even potential clients. Like, of course I want to work with Annie. You know, her team is always, I read about them all the time, or I see them online all the time. They're doing fabulous stuff.
Right,
So
right.
I think there's a contagion factor in there.
Absolutely.
There's momentum, right,
Yeah.
Kelly?
Yeah.
And so to surround yourself with like people, and I think women sort of have a tendency to want everyone to like them. And that's not...
Wait, is this where we raise our hand or not?
Well, it's not a realistic goal. And
Right.
You're very good with that, though.
I've tried a long time over the years. And remember, it's very difficult to successfully partner with someone who doesn't have a majority of like characteristics, of like philosophies, of people you develop a rapport with,
Right.
which leads to trust, which leads to chemistry, which leads to the foundation, because relationships have conflict. And I think if people are true to that and true to working through that, and I just think sometimes women stay in negative situations because they don't have the confidence or the ability to move away from it, you know, even if they're not voicing that.
Yeah.
So to your younger self, Kelly, when you did make that pivot, was there something you look back on and say, if I knew then what I know now, was there something that just didn't pivot as smoothly as discipline and competition and not wanting to lose and all that inner fire that drives you?
You know, I think that I just fell down really hard, and I think with tennis, or in life, you get the opportunity to get back up, and you know, emotionally and mentally, you know, I fell pretty hard. It was really difficult for me to not be Kelly McCain, the tennis player.
Yeah.
I was now Kelly Parker, the wife, and nothing else, you know. And so, you know, you had to you have an opportunity to get up, and I think, you know, if I was talking to my younger self, I would tell myself it's okay to get up sooner. You know, it's okay to just
Well, and that's
stand
a
back
good
up.
point.
You'd brush
Is
yourself
get
off
up.
and-
Don't wait for someone to tell you to get up. You know,
Yeah.
I think just the sooner the better is get up and look straight ahead. Don't look back.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity to get up, and there's a new door. And you know, I was still coaching. I was still in tennis after I had stopped playing, and that was a terrible decision. And looking back, but you know, I didn't know that, so
Right.
you know, I was still doing what I knew, and you know, but that was how I got up. So
When you leave Duke after 2 years, do you think there wasn't a single-mindedness? And of course, now everyone that you're playing in the Pro Tour is elite, right? It levels up everyone, right? They all made the sort of sacrifices of discipline, have the talent to get there. It's just very difficult to even get there.
Yeah.
And so do you think in your brain you're like, well, there's a plan B. I'll go back to Duke. I liked Duke. I sort of like, ooh, I miss it anyway, right? Is there any of that creeping in? Because then when you go back and you're like, ooh, can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. This doesn't feel the same, because literally you've moved on,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So you're not the same coming back, and they're not the same as you come back. So do you think that sort of like, this doesn't have to work, I can go back to Duke?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I picked Duke anyways. I mean, if you're wanting to become a professional tennis player, you don't go to an elite school, you know, like you don't need to go to Duke University. Like, I could have gone to Florida, which would have been a lot easier academically, but I chose Duke because I knew, you know, tennis doesn't last forever, and that degree is worth a lot more than any other degree that I was going to get. And, you know, as my mom said, if somebody offers you a free ride to Duke, you say yes.
Emphatically. Where do I sign? Yeah, for sure. Because one of Ann's son, Ben, is a musician in Nashville. And I'll never forget, you know, you or Corey or someone asked him about a plan B, and he said, there's no plan B. No plan B. Yeah. And I'm all in. And none of the things you talked about, Kelly, were fatal. Yeah. Whether it's a flaw, whether it's a mistake, you know, it's crawl, walk, run. In anything goal-oriented related, it has to be the infrastructure. I have to have a plan to get there.
Right.
Right. And so impulsive, spontaneous, but very methodical. Right. That's how I'm going to get there. And I think when you realized, okay, there's no plan B, it's not Duke anymore, then I don't know if that was part of how the mentality changed.
It certainly was when I finally started doing better on the tour. You know, I definitely let go of that piece of it. You know, I couldn't go back to playing on the team. My friends were different. I was different. You know, that wasn't something I could go back to. So I think once that realization came, and, you know, at the time, I think my brother gave me some advice, and he's like, you know, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, you know, and
can't bring them home from the store and not break them.
Yep. So, you know, and that was a really good piece of advice. Okay. I broke all the eggs. So, you know, now I can make my omelet because I'm ready.
Burned a couple omelets.
Yep.
Now I got to try again.
Yep. And
so was your family that real big infrastructure for you?
Yeah. My dad was my coach. We have a really good relationship. And my brother played at University of Michigan. He still coaches. So tennis is
a family.
Yeah, tennis is a big piece of it. And I think that it just was something that we all relate to and did as a family.
Have in common.
So how did you then, tell us about the journey to Fitness Holdings, aka Crunch Fitness?
Yeah, so when I was in Florida training, I met this guy who had sold his company, and he was retired, and he was like in his 30s, and he was playing tennis all day. And he ended up taking lessons with my dad, and I would hit with him from now and then. And when I was doing all this blogging and stuff, I posted on my Facebook page, I am doing social media. If anybody, you know, I put myself out there. And he called me, and he's like, I am CEO of this company. And we run these gyms called Crunch Fitness. And I had never heard of Crunch Fitness. And well, what's the website? He's like, crunch.com. And, you know, and, okay, well, I'll put some ideas together for you. And that's how it started. I just was a consultant on their organic social media.
Wow.
And that's when I, you know, started that research on the ad side. And so that was 6.5 years ago.
Wow.
She could do an entire podcast on the crisis in health clubs when...
You know, what's funny is I started full-time for this company in September of 2020.
Oh, what? Wow. And now we have a minute left. And we're just like, are you kidding me? Because that obviously put a ton of gyms out of business.
Oh, it was a totally different,
crisis, right?
Crazy time. I mean, I started, and they bought a club at auction. And he's like, this is going to be fun. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm getting into. And they buy this club, and, you know, the members thought it was gone because it was an auction.
Oh, yeah.
So they thought they were just selling their equipment. No, they sold the club to us. You're our member now. Welcome. And during the pandemic, I mean, we opened 2 clubs, one in Roosevelt in Philadelphia where they were still having riots.
Yeah.
Gyms were not allowed to be opened yet, and we were opening a club the day they allowed clubs to
Wow.
open, gyms to even
Wow.
open. And, try to market that. I'm sorry, you can't come until
probably
January
did
4th, but we're going to open that day.
Did you get the press out? They probably wanted to cover this gym that's,
Why would
that's
you-
the counter
anybody do
trend.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you now, I'm like, I'm a dog with a bone. I want to hear all about this. We're out of time. Oh my goodness. Talk about resilience, right?
But that's
Incredible.
that's a
Yeah.
great story of starting. So we need to have Kelly back to hear why you would open a gym. Yeah, in the middle of a global
because
pandemic.
my bosses said so. We signed a lease.
Because you like to win. Yeah.
We
yeah.
signed a lease
Winning.
and we are building. And guess what? We're opening, so we have to open. So here we go. Chop, chop.
So
Get
quick
to it.
fitness tip to any listeners. Like what are your top 3 ideas to encourage us to put our screens down and take command of exercise or movement?
I would say 1, move your body. So, move.
Couldn't agree
Okay.
more.
Get out.
Move your body.
Move your body. Find something you enjoy to do.
Okay. So
you
it could be hiking.
So you
could
could
be-
literally walk.
Yeah.
And not walk around your room.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And fitness related, have a goal. Well, yeah, I mean, I honestly
Well, that's good.
have something you want to
Yeah.
achieve. It's easier to get there.
So either I want to attend 2 classes this month, or I want to learn a
Yeah.
new,
Or I want to fit into my skinny jeans.
Yeah.
Kelly, we need our body.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
essential.
Whatever motivates you. Like,
It could be somebody wants to learn the sport of tennis. Maybe that's a goal to
That's
learn.
so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played tennis in high school
Good.
because I didn't want to play field hockey.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Because you can only use one half of the stick. I didn't understand the game, and the first time I tried it, people kept whacking me in the legs, and I'm like, oh no. And I was just good hand-eye coordination and loved it. Yeah, so
Good.
well, I
Kelly-
played basketball when I was younger, and
Oh.
played that.
it's a contact sport, and so that's why I started tennis, because there's 72 feet between me and the other person. Like, you're hitting me, and I don't like that.
Plus, I didn't like the honor system in high school where people were calling their own lines and stuff, and I get
You need the ball kids and the umpires.
impartial. Fight with somebody in the chair.
Yeah.
I can argue with that.
Well, thank you, Kelly Parker, for
You were
visiting
delightful.
us.
See how fast that went?
Thank you.
From
Yeah.
North
Appreciate
Carolina,
taking the
you
time.
came north up here to PA. I learned a lot of things. I think one thing, all of our listeners, get back up. Don't set your goals. We don't love losing, so that's good. Keep your focus on winning. Surround yourself with people that can help you win. And there is life after a professional, as after an elite athlete. When that career is done, there's
There's always
a lot
another
more ahead.
opportunity.
That's right. And the only guaranteed outcome is quitting.
Right.
And that's not...
And we are not quitters.
Not acceptable. No, and there are pivots, right? I mean, there are, but you're still moving forward. You're still fighting the good fight to try
Well, you're
to
never
find that.
stuck in where you are. You can always change and edit.
Right.
And, if you don't like your situation, you can change it.
Yes. See, there's another business vitamin.
I said there'll be multis.
Don't talk about it. Change it. If you don't like, what's going on in your life or in your career at this point in time, change it.
We are extraordinarily grateful to you
Yes,
and your
we
market
are.
visit to take the
thank you.
time to come in here and
I
talk
appreciate
with
it.
us.
Thank you.
People need to hear these stories of just perseverance, resilience, and when I look at you, it's just sheer discipline.
Yep.
And a will to just keep pivoting with those inner sort of fires burning in you. And I just
thank
have
you.
such admiration for that.
So, Annie Carnathan, Grit Gravitas, we ask all our listeners and viewers Comment, share this link with your friends. Follow us. We have crested 50 episodes, which is pretty cool in the podcast world. And again, we're learning as we go, but stay tuned for even more surprise gifts from in-state and out-of-state.
Very good.
Have a high gear day.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. It's our desire that these stories will bring energy, ideas, and fresh thinking that you can use today. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram, and have a high gear day.